tired of it, that's for
Can we see
sure.
everybody on the
Yeah,
screen?
back to normal.
I'm over it.
All right,
Man.
everyone.
Nice.
Am I on?
Nice.
Feedback.
Turn your speakers
I'm muted.
down.
Mm-hmm.
We may be loud.
All right, I'm going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Class.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and participating on Zoom tonight. Steve, if you could help us with the roll call, please.
Yes, and thanks for not calling me Sally.
Okay, Sally.
I'm new to Planning Commission, so I'm going to call alphabetically tonight. So Commissioner Greenway. Let's see here.
No.
Jashinsky.
Here.
Merrick
Merrick?
is here.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Oh, Merrick.
Oh, here.
Ryer. Here. Schultz.
Here.
Weiler.
Here.
And Chairman Atwell.
Present. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we have two public hearings tonight. The first public hearing, number 1, text amendment to the zoning code, City of Delafield, proposed text amendment to zoning code related to the creation of impervious surface provisions and revisions to the fence provisions. Is there anyone here or on Zoom that would like to speak to this public hearing? Is there anyone that would like to speak to this public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Public hearing number 2, conditional use site plan amendment, plan development, 415 South Genesee Street, LLC, owner Jeffrey Whiteman, applicant, request an amendment to the conditional use site plan for an existing plan development to allow outdoor special events. Is there anyone here? Come on up, Mary.
I am here, Bailey Cornell with Geronimo Hospitality.
Come on up.
I'm on Zoom. Sorry.
Oh,
Mary, just come on up. We're just going to ignore Zoom until Steve can mute her.
yeah.
Oh, well, but we're doing
Let's let her.
citizens' comments, and Mary's got the floor.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. My name is Mary Daniel, and I live at 309 Wisconsin Avenue here in Delafield. I would like to speak to your hearing number 2. And as president of the Hawksand Historical Society, we are in favor of these events as we are neighbors on the south side of Permelia Street. We will have the lights on and the doors open at the Delafield History Center at Hawksand for our art exhibit of William G. Davidson, those evenings starting June 12th through October 2nd. We really look forward to having music on the hill. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to make a comment to this public hearing? Steve, is there anybody online that would like to speak during this public hearing?
Bailey, if you're online, did you wish to speak to this public hearing?
I guess I'm just here in case anyone has any questions about the event, but I'm not sure if that's the citizens portion or later on under unfinished business.
Yeah, so Bailey, when we get to you on the agenda, we'll ask you to participate. Right now, it's just citizens' comments to this public hearing, not the applicant.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else online, the public hearing is now closed. Okay, number 5, minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 24th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, now we have citizens' comments on the consent agenda. Just comments to the 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the consent agenda? Seeing none, citizens' comments for the consent agenda is now closed. Okay, item number 7, the consent agenda. Amy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, before anyone makes a motion, I just wanted to point out that on Here's the Scoop, I did recommend approval, subject to a detailed rendering of the gooseneck lighting. I did not realize, but drove by, the gooseneck lighting's already there, so the applicant, I see Stephanie's on Zoom, can disregard that condition, so I recommend approval as proposed.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Great, is there any discussion?
Dan?
Dan?
Dan.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, if you were on the consent agenda, you have been approved, and you are free to leave or stay for the rest of the agenda.
And then one quick thing before the mayor moves on, I keep forgetting to tell you. You may notice that the staff reports are separate, and they used to be on one long sheet of paper. That's for long-term record tracking, so that they can each go into their individual file.
Makes sense.
Just so you know why it's a little different. Otherwise, other people's information was in other project files. Didn't make sense.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, next we're on to citizens' comments for items on or off the agenda. Just want to make note that we will not be discussing the 7 Cs property tonight. We'll just be getting a brief update from the planner, but no decisions or anything along those lines. Discussion will be taking place from the Planning Commission. So with that said, is there anybody that would like to speak to citizens' comments?
Is that relative to the 7 Cs?
Anything you want.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, I need you to come up here and give us your name and address. And this is a comment period, so it's for you to give us your comments. It's not a two-way discussion.
Well, I'll leave it as a question then.
Okay?
And then you can decide whether you want to address it. Terry Giles, 1607 Weber Court. And my comment is, have you received the revised plans yet? Question mark.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to make citizens' comments to anything on or off the agenda? Not seeing any hands going up in the room. Steve, anybody online? Oh, okay, great. Then citizens' comments are now closed. Number 9, unfinished business. Item A. Amy, that one is yours.
Okay. So this item is Point Crossing, correct? Is that where we're at?
7 Cs.
Communication.
Oh, 7
Just an
Cs.
update on.
Okay, update on 7 Cs. The applicant, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant because they are still working on revising their plans, but it is my understanding that they are revising their plans, scaling back a little bit. And also, at this point, they've taken the feedback from the Plan Commission and they are considering removing the restaurant element of the use, which would then also mean that they can no longer use the property on the east side of the road, which then reduces their floor area ratio, which will require them to reduce the size of the overall structure. So I do not know what they're going to be coming back with at this time. However, it is my understanding that it is their intention to be on the April 28th agenda, which means, let me look real quick here. We need the materials in order to notice the public hearing by the beginning of April. So, you know, it'll be noticed on the 20th and 13th, or the 14th and 21st, and at that time, the information's available at City Hall.
And the due date for them, or any other applicant for the April 28th meeting is April 13th.
It is. He will need to have his materials in earlier for publication.
Okay.
So,
All right.
April 5th probably.
Any questions for the planner or anything? Seeing none, we will move on to 9B. DELC 0793.049.002-005, 411, 413, 415, 417 Wells Street. Owner Point Crossings, Delafield LLC, applicant John Kuntz, MSI General, Applicant is asking the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing for an amendment to the conditional use permit site plan from the Point Crossing development, eliminating 4 parking stalls from the road right-of-way of Wells Street. And I see John is online. Amy, did you want to give us an overview first?
Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick update because we did consider this matter in December. But at the December meeting, the Plan Commission considered the applicant's proposal to remove 4 parking stalls on Wells Street that were originally approved as part of the condominium development. At that time, you had recommended that they try to at least accommodate 2 stalls in order to get the delivery trucks off of the road. What they would like to do at this time is modify the addresses to Main Street, where there is ample driveway parking and garage parking, which would then encourage those delivery trucks to use their own driveways and also put packages in front of their garages and private space versus the area that's pretty public on Wells Street. And then they are also proposing to pay in lieu mitigation of $15,000 instead of putting in the parking stalls. And I know, they have been talking to the administrator about a few ideas for additional parking downtown. He did go to the Public Works Committee earlier this month, Dan? Mm-hmm. And the Public Works Committee did recommend the in lieu payment subject to that address change. Anything else you want to add, Dan?
It was unanimous, and we did look at some additional parking stalls at the parking lot that's very near this building by the baseball diamond and the soccer fields. So that's where the dollar point came up to. My court looked at what it would approximately cost to add 4 stalls to that parking lot. That's where we left it.
Great, thank you. John, did you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, I think Amy did a great job summarizing it. Obviously, we've been working to come to a resolution that meets all the needs between both the developer, John Tomasini, with the condo buildings and also the city through the conditional use permit and the additional need of parking in the community. So our meeting with Department of Public Works and also a staff meeting prior to that I thought was very productive. And we want to be able to come up with a resolution and be able to close this project out. So the issue that was brought up in December about delivery trucks, we feel that we're mitigating that concern by changing the addressing to Main Street, as Amy mentioned earlier. There is adequate parking and delivery turnaround space there, and that makes a lot more sense both to the developer and to us, quite frankly, in hindsight, to change that addressing. No one's bought any of the condos yet, so we'll go through the process of getting that switched over. And then, again, our goal is to go through the process to get our conditional use permit amended, which will require a public hearing next month, and then final approval should everything be agreed upon.
Great, thank you, John. Does the Planning Commission have any questions for the applicant? All right, then we'd be looking for a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Move to schedule a public hearing for April 28th for the MSI properties just discussed.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, thank you, John. All right, we'll move on to 9C, DLC 0793.001.001, 415 South Genesee Street, owner 415 South Genesee Street, LLC, applicant Jeffrey Whiteman, ID Delafield Hotel. Applicant is requesting an amendment to the existing conditional use permit, site plan and appearance review, and business plan of operation to allow outdoor special events on a reoccurring basis. Amy?
Okay, hold on one second. I'm just trying to put the site plan up here. Hopefully you can see that.
And while she's doing that, Jeff, are you online? Is the applicant John?
This is Bailey Fornell.
Oh, Bailey,
with ID,
Bailey, gotcha.
Speaking on behalf, yeah.
Gotcha, thank you, Bailey. We'll let the city planner give an overview, and then we'll ask for your participation.
Okay, so as I'm sure you all know, ID Restaurant's located downtown. It's in the CBD 3 downtown district. And it is subject to a plan development conditional use, which is why they went through the public hearing and do need an amendment to that agreement. They're proposing to amend their conditional use to allow the outdoor events that would occur throughout summer and fall. They are proposing the events one time a week. At the last meeting, the Plan Commission had recommended to not put a specific date, so they have modified that to just one time a week. Weather permitting, that would be between June and October from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. They would have live music with drinks available outside, and then folks could go in to the restaurant to get carry-out food and eat it outside. The events would take place on the north side of the building. I'll try to zoom in a little more. It just starts to get a little fuzzy. Next to Pamela Street. The bands would be playing amplified music from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. And then again, they would close at 10. The noise would be controlled by a general manager who would be on site during the events. They do anticipate up to potentially 200 additional patrons. They also feel that there's adequate parking, and they would have additional staff and security to manage the events. And garbage will be managed during and immediately following the event. They did have these events at the end of the 2020 season, and the city did not receive any complaints, and it sounds like they were very successful, which is why they're coming back. At that time, because it was very temporary and they weren't sure how it was going to go, the city did approve those events through a community event planning permit, and then suggested if they do this on an annual basis every year, a reoccurring basis, they would need to come through and amend the conditional use permit. They also, because of COVID, did submit in the packet, you'll see an explanation of how they plan to manage safety and proper social distancing and cleanliness. I won't go through all of those details unless you want me to. So with that, I don't know, Bailey, did you have anything to add before I provide a recommendation?
No, ma'am. Pretty much will be the same as last year, and we're really looking forward to it.
Okay, so with that, I do recommend approval of the conditional use amendment, which is also a site plan review and business plan of operation because they are changing their technical ownership name. Subject to me drafting a conditional use agreement with the city attorney for review and approval or consideration by the Common Council. It would include the additional conditions that outdoor events shall be conducted in accordance with the proposals revised by the applicant for the March 2021 Plan Commission meeting, including location and layout of events, hours and season of operation, hours of live music, and management of the events. Any modification will require revised site plan review and business plan of operation. So they would not need to amend their CU if they make slight adjustments. If it's determined that the modifications are significant in nature, the Plan Commission has the authority to require the submittal of a CU amendment. And then also if it is determined that the use becomes a nuisance due to noise, waste, or any other reason determined by the Plan Commission, this conditional use may be revoked following proper notice to the applicant, public hearing, and proper procedures at the time the revocation is pursued. And then all other conditions of the plan development conditional use remain in place.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well,
It's a lot of info.
And this is just us, or does this go to?
Common Council.
Okay.
So this would be a recommendation to draft the conditional use agreement for approval and consideration by the Common Council for review and approval.
I will make that recommendation exactly as stated in your report.
Second.
Oh, no, that was a tie.
I'll take it.
Let Robert
Bob got
get
hand up first.
I'm furthest away, so sound takes longer to travel.
That could be.
All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
I can actually start writing those as motions. Would that be?
Thank you very much. I know I'm looking forward to participating in those events. Alrighty, we will move on to
That's a
9D,
draft.
City of Delafield text amendment to the zoning code. Discuss and provide a recommendation to Common Council regarding text amendments related to the creation of impervious surface provisions and revisions to the fence provision. Amy?
Okay, so there's two separate items on here. The impervious surface provisions we've talked about multiple times. This is the official, you can make your decision and recommendation to the council. And what we had done is we reduced the language just to the areas within 35 feet of the shore in RL1, RL1A, and RL2, prohibiting any impervious surface except boathouses and a walkway, a single walkway not to exceed 5 feet.
So is this going to council or is that with us? You need
This would be a recommendation to draft an ordinance for consideration by Common Council.
Okay, motion to recommend the drafting of the ordinance for consideration by the Common Council of the impervious surface zoning code.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? So just so I understand it correctly as well, so we'll write the revisions and then it does not come back to the planning commission, it'll go right to the council?
Right, so the language is in this memo. I just have to put it in the ordinance that goes to council.
In ordinance format?
Ordinance format.
Okay.
And this matches other things like non-conforming lots and structures where if they exist, they're able to maintain them, but if they're redeveloped or reconstructed, they need to comply?
If they're reconstructed, yes.
Okay.
I strongly support this. This is, something that helps protect Lake Nagawicca, the quality of the water, and that sort of thing. And I commend the Lake Welfare Committee for bringing this forward. Okay, seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item 10A, DELC 078.
Oh, wait, hold on, fences, was that part of that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Fences. Not used to two things in one.
Yeah, I probably should have had those as two separate items. So the fence we did have the public hearing tonight at the beginning of the meeting. This is Scott's language, and he's unfortunately not here tonight. So I would recommend that we, I don't know if it's technically called tabling, but table the...
No, we don't use that word here, postpone.
Postpone the discussion and recommendation to Common Council until the next meeting. I do just want to add that Scott and I talked today, and we are going to add language related to the agricultural districts are left out in these provisions, incidentally. And so he is recommending that fencing shall be in the agricultural districts be 5 feet or less in height, at least 50% open, and not include barbed wire. All other fences require plan commission approval. So if somebody did propose barbed wire or anything else, they would need to come through you. So that will be added to the language next month.
Okay. Great, so no action needed on that. We're just going to
Postpone it.
postpone it. My verbal statement. Got it. Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Chair, you really should take action to postpone it, just as a body.
Okay.
So somebody can make a motion.
good enough. If somebody can make a motion, please, to postpone the fence.
I'll make a motion to postpone the fencing until next month.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay. And if somebody wants to go into the difference between postponing and tabling, happy to do that with you after the meeting. Okay. 10A, DELC, new business, 10A, DELC 0786.100-2181 West Shore Drive, owner applicant Eric and Rachel Weiss. Applicant is asking the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing to consider a special exception from section 52.199 existing non-conforming lots to allow the construction of a shed that exceeds floor area ratio and open space requirements. Is the applicant here? Please come on up. If you could just state your name and address, it'd be appreciated.
Eric Weiss, 2181 West Shore Drive.
Rachel Weiss, same address.
Great. And Amy, can you give us an overview, please?
Sure. So this property is located on the west side of Lake Nagawaki on the west, say west-west, on the west side of West Shore Drive. It is a non-conforming lot, approximately 8,000 square feet in size, whereas 10,000 square feet is required. And it is, the west side of West Shore Drive is off the lake. The existing structures do comply with the floor area ratio requirements, but they do not comply with open space. And the applicant's proposing to replace the existing shed with a 480 square feet shed. So the existing shed is 168 square feet, so just over doubling the size. And the shed would store outdoor equipment and lake gear. Right now, the items are stored outside of on the property. And the applicant would like to make the yard area more appealing and eliminate risks associated with theft. They are not, so the garage is on the, I'm going to go to the site plan here. Hold on. Just want to show you where the garage is going. Okay. So north is facing on the right side of the piece of paper. So on the west side, you can see the shed on the top of the screen. It is in the back of the property, but they will not have a paved driveway accessing it. They will just use the yard. And it's mostly, again, for equipment storage. But the shed does require the special exception. The floor area ratio right now, they're at 0.38 floor area ratio, whereas 0.40 is allowed. That would give them a total accessory structure of 301.8 square feet. So they are proposing to go over that by 178.2 square feet, and they will be at 0.42 floor area. Same thing with open space. You need to have at least 7,000 square feet of open space. They will have 6,465 square feet. They currently have 6,777 square feet. They do meet, very recently, we went through the code amendments for special exceptions. They do meet those minimum provisions, obviously, or they wouldn't be able to be here. They would need a variance. And those minimum provisions do require that they be at least under 0.45 floor area or 4,000 square feet, which would be the minimum allowed for a conforming lot. That's 10,000 square feet. They also, with open space, they're allowed to go through the special exception because the lot is not conforming to size. But with those amendments, the new code does require that the applicant demonstrate that the granting of a special exception is justified in accordance with the ordinance. That justification written by the applicant is on paper next to your space. I was not able to get them into the packet before the meeting. And the special exception shall not be contrary or inconsistent with the spirit and intent of the ordinance and shall not be hazardous, harmful, noxious, offensive, or a nuisance to adjacent properties, the surrounding neighborhood, or natural resources. The new amendments do also require a public hearing. So tonight is just a preliminary presentation, and then if you feel that the applicant has enough information, you can schedule the public hearing for next month. I do have some pictures that I can show, but I did drive by there today. Hold on. And if you have an opportunity, you do have a month between now and the next meeting, I think it would be a good idea to drive through here because it is a little bit of a difficult decision for you to make because it does need to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and not be a nuisance to the adjacent properties. And these are small lots. There's definitely a mix of very small sheds or no outbuildings at all, but there are a few two-car detached garages as well. So the applicant does have a two-car attached garage and a three-story house, and then this would be in addition to that. And it does minimize the already pretty small area of green space on the property. But again, there's a mix of pattern of development, which I think is the biggest risk, if any, out here, would be setting a precedent to have bigger outbuildings throughout the street. So if you have a chance to go out there and take a look at it, I would recommend you do that. So other than that, I would suggest that you provide feedback to the applicant and schedule a public hearing if appropriate for April 28th. Unless, Eric, do you want to go ahead and explain your justification?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, and I don't know if you can keep going through the pictures a little bit, but there's a couple pictures of what shows what's behind the shed. The idea would be to get all items that are currently stored exterior to the shed, lawnmower, utility trailer, boat. We also have 5 kayaks that are currently stored.
Can you
down
please
on our
try to
shared
speak into the microphone?
Oh, sorry about that. We also have 5 kayaks that are stored down at our shared lake lot. Ideally, we don't store them down there where they're not in anybody's view. That's part of our association. So to get all that unsightliness, we need a little bit additional space. With aging children, all the stuff they tend to accumulate gets bigger with age, unless it's an Xbox or a new iPhone. The current shed is starting to settle a little bit uneven, so we have to do some required maintenance. It's currently on blocks with a wood floor. We would go with a more permanent concrete slab with the new build. From an aesthetic standpoint, it would match the house. I think it'd have a very good look and feel. And also, it would match all the setbacks. So the 8 feet off the rear and side lots, we would meet or exceed those requirements. Also, the height requirement under 15 feet would be met. And I think just in general, yes, there are some lots without accessory buildings and a number that do that are larger than what we're proposing to do. And I think even if we went with the minimum required of 300 square feet, it would limit our ability to do all the storage we're intending to do, but ultimately it would be the same width, just a little bit shorter in depth, if we did move forward with just the allowable 300 square foot building.
Is there a height requirement or height, how high they can go with the
There
roof
is,
line?
and they meet that.
That existing shed is about 11, 12 feet tall, and we'd be going to 15 as the maximum. The potential design is about 14 and a half feet.
Because I'm thinking if there was enough room up above, they could use it for storage too. It caught the size of the building.
Oh.
Definitely
Yeah, it's
the-
15 feet, so it's not ability to have a terribly large second
Storage.
And that's
storage.
part
Or
of the
attic.
square footage, correct? So if it's a certain height, like a loft area, I think that's counted toward it. So then we would be asking for even more perhaps if you're going to store.
I'm just thinking green space.
Yeah.
Yep.
We would be happy to go up, but we know that the 15 feet is the requirement.
I have one question on, I think you submitted some statements from your neighbors.
Yes.
In basically supporting what you're doing.
Jim, is your mic on?
Your
or
mic.
Can you please put it closer to your mouth?
It's down on the floor.
The mic.
Sorry about that.
It's on.
Can you hear now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The other neighbors, do they have sheds like yours on their property?
We have one neighbor beside us that does have a shed similar to ours, and then the one directly across the street has a much larger shed, a 2-stall garage, probably close to that 15-foot max height. And then the neighbor to our north does not have a shed. And then the neighbor behind us is part of the Carriage Hills neighborhood, so larger lots. They're a new construction. They've only been in the house for a little over a year. They've not indicated that they plan to build one, but there's a tree line behind that shed, so they wouldn't really have much visibility, at least in the months that we have leaves.
To your knowledge, has anybody in the neighborhood voiced any objections to your plan?
No, we've discussed this with pretty much everybody in our association, which is on the west side of the street, and then the the neighbor directly across the street. We had signed documents from all of those adjoining lots that they are not concerned with us building the shed.
And are of the two neighbors that have the sheds that support your plan, do those neighbors, are those sheds non-conforming as well?
I cannot speak to that. I do not know.
The one across the street is very large, so it may be, but the other one, I would say, is within. It's much smaller.
Yeah, the neighbor to our south is a double lot, so they're probably conforming.
But the one otherwise would be, one of them would probably be a non-conforming.
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
So here's, Jim, can you see the county
Oh,
GIS on
okay.
the screen? There's a property a couple doors to the south where it looks like they have a fairly large outbuilding.
It's almost bigger than their house.
Yeah, that's
You know, and then there's another one. I don't know the size of these lots exactly, but it's a mixed bag. You know, there's also properties that don't have them.
I guess personally, I wouldn't have any problem going to the 300, but I'm a little concerned with the 480. That's triple what you have now. And not knowing the situation of the neighbors, if they're meeting their floor area ratio with their outbuildings, if they're on conforming, non-conforming lots. So I'm teetering here, not really sure. It's about the size of a two-car garage, 24
close,
by
yeah.
22.
Yeah, it'd be doubling.
So
our
I have a hard
system.
time calling it a shed, but
Yeah.
I get it.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely a family of 5 trying to make it work for us.
Sure.
We love Delafield and we want this to be our forever home and stay within what the neighborhood has, you know, as a visual aspect.
Now, how long have you been there?
We've lived there a little over 5 years.
So I take it you did not build the first shed that's there?
Correct. It was with the home that we purchased.
And since you've been there in those 5 years, was the neighbor who's got the big shed and the smaller lot, did he put that in since you've been there, or was it there
It
before?
was already there.
So when you came there, you saw this?
Correct.
Have you really done a detailed analysis of whether or not how you could handle 300 square feet as opposed to 480?
Yeah, I've mapped out our accessory items. We have an additional vehicle, a Mini Cooper, that we would park in there over the winter time. We have a golf cart to get back and forth to the lake lot, a riding lawnmower to help mow the association lot, the utility trailer, and then the kayaks and some of the lake equipment would not all fit in a 300 square foot shed.
And not to be a jokester, but we did get a bagster not that long ago and tried to eliminate a lot of these things and really make this work for us, and we've thought about it for quite some time.
So this is like the movie You Need a Bigger Boat?
Yeah, but we like where we live, and we don't want to move to get more space.
Are there any rules within your association that govern this type of situation?
No, there are not. It's a peer association for the lake lot that we share.
Right.
Not about the homes in the neighborhood.
Are there any other members of the neighborhood with whom you've discussed this matter that could provide us with any further information that you know of?
I can add, or there would be people available if you'd like
Would
to.
support or not support? You've heard no negative feedback so far?
No negative feedback from anyone we've talked to, and we spoke to at least the 14 people within our association, and then a variety of folks that do live on the lake side of the street, and nobody's been opposed, nor the neighbor behind us in Carriage Hills has any issue with it.
Well, I would be in favor of a drive-by at some point between now and the next hearing.
Got time, got a month.
Give you a better picture. I see it up here, but until you really see it live, it's you got to go to the crime scene for the crime.
I think the nice piece is it would fit within the width of our home. So from the street side, there'd really be no visualization of the shed if you're directly in front of the house. If you're past it or before it, you would have an angle to see some of that shed. But the general appeal and look of the shed is going to be similar to our home in terms of the cedar siding. So it's going to have the same aesthetics from the home itself.
So Amy, Dan brought up a 300 square feet.
That's if you
What is
stayed at the allowed .40 floor area ratio, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
So if they built a 301.8 square foot shed, that would be .40 FAR.
Yeah, I'm with Dan that would be a lot easier decision. Just from, you just heard us, we're going through ordinances discussing how to deal with impervious surfaces near the lake, and we deal with the floor area ratio and green space all the time, and those numbers are tough for me to straddle and get it,
I
step
guess
across.
I'd ask why then it was approved for the .45 as kind of the maximum for the special exception for non-conforming lots? We'd be well
Oh,
underneath
sure,
that.
I get that, I get that. I'm just saying, what would be an easier decision? Would be an easy, for.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and we wouldn't have to be here if we stuck with the .40.
Yeah, so Eric, just to help explain that a little bit, so the several years ago, the city decided that there's this gray area where, so you're allowed a certain amount permitted by right, and then if you exceed that, it requires a variance. Well, the tests for a variance are very difficult to meet. You have to prove that you can't practically use the property at all without it. And so they determined that sometimes structures there's a gray area where sometimes they might be acceptable, but sometimes they may not. And that's where you have to prove that you meet, that it is compatible with the neighborhood and it won't become a nuisance. And that's not always based on the feelings of your direct neighbors. It's the precedent it might set long term. Because you might do this and then all of your neighbors along the street might decide they want to do the same thing. And then what are the cumulative impacts to the resources and neighborhood at large? So it is, that is why it's at this plan commission, is for them to consider those items.
And like you said, it is a really mixed neighborhood. As you drive down that street, you will see a large variety of everything. It seems like, did that person really get a permit for that, or how long has that been here? There are so many different things that you'll see.
A lot of those things happened so many years ago, though.
Oh, yeah.
That when those homes were just cottages that people came to in the summer months.
Right.
And when people started moving in year round, then we started getting this mix of things that we're still dealing with. And we're trying to regulate this so it's fair to everyone, and so that it doesn't do any damage to the lake. So that's how this all comes about.
Can you help me, Amy? I really understood the floor area ratio. How about the green space numbers? Do we have those?
Yes, so right now, the code requires 7,000 square feet in the district, and that's assuming a 10,000 square foot lot. So this lot's only 8,037 square feet. They currently have 6,777 square feet, and they're proposing 6,465 square feet of open space. So, they're just under 600 square feet shy of complying.
Okay. And that doesn't include, and the reason I'm asking the question is because you mentioned parking vehicles in here, and you're saying you're not going to put in a driveway, but at some point, whether it's you or somebody else, wouldn't that typically allow for more impervious surface if they or a future owner decided to pave it, because you are able to park multiple cars in there?
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and that's something that the Plan Commission, if you approved it, you may want to consider not restricting the ability to put in the pavement.
But if you do come and tour the property, there is a well casing, so you can't just pull a regular car into that garage. It would be something specific like our Mini or a motorcycle or something quite small. So.
Yeah, a standard vehicle wouldn't fit between the house and the well to get to the backyard. So it'd be the Mini Cooper, the golf cart, and the lawnmower are really the only things that could pass by there.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant?
So we'd be looking to schedule public hearing, and approval would be next month, most likely.
Yep.
Okay, motion to go ahead and approve scheduling a public hearing for April 28th.
Second.
Great, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Great, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for your
Commissioner.
time.
Okay, we will move on to 10B. Recommendation to the Common Council regarding the Park and Recreation Strategic Plan 2020 to 2024. Amy?
I am actually not involved in this, so
Okay.
I will let
We know who it
Jim
is.
or Steve speak to the matter.
Okay, well, how about Jim?
How about Jim? Well, the plan was approved by the Park and Recreation Commission by unanimous vote on February 22nd. There were oral amendments that were made at the time, and then on the 2 days ago at the 22nd of March meeting, those particular oral amendments were also approved from the standpoint that there weren't any objections to it. They were just to make sure they were recorded as accurate as they were made on February 22nd. So it's a complete report that the Park and Recreation Commission has approved. It's been a lengthy process, very involved. Every commissioner contributed to this in their own meaningful ways. But we think it's complete, it's precise, and consistent with the 2030 comprehensive plan. And we as a commission view ourselves as the stewards of the natural resources of this great community. We also view ourselves as a conscience of the community to protect all parks and recreational areas. So I think it's there. There may be a typographical addition or one or two its that should be this, but otherwise it's complete, and there's been a lot invested in this, all for the benefit, I think, of the city and its comprehensive plan, and helping with the next stage of development through the Plan Commission, the joint meeting of the Plan Commission with the Common Council, all to the betterment of the community. So I ask your approval to recommend this to the Common Council. I just want everybody to know a lot of hard work was put into it by all the commissioners. They take it seriously, and we're committed to that stewardship to protect the natural resources of this really unique community. And I think it's other communities that look to Delafield with a great deal of favor, as opposed to Delafield looking elsewhere. We have a jewel here, and the more you do the plan and investigate, and the more you study it, the greater the place seems to be. So I would welcome you to read it if you haven't already, but I want you to know that when you go into this as deep as we did, it was very meaningful to tell everybody how great this place is. So with that, I ask that you...
Did you want to make a motion, Jim?
I would make a motion that you recommend this plan to be sent to the Common Council and for the Common Council to approve it.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
A second? Laura seconds?
I think you were seconding?
No, I was making the motion.
Oh,
I'll make the motion.
I think
He already
Jim
made the
Oh, we
motion.
made the motion, I'll second then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Park and Rec. I thought that this was awesome. The pictures in it and the way it's formatted in it, it made it so easy to read. It is very handsome looking. And I hope that at some point that this is put into a booklet so that it can be handed out.
Thank you.
Great.
Became a labor of love.
It shows.
All righty. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, on to section 12, report of city officials. Planning Commission meeting dates and deadlines. Regular meeting will be April 28th, 2021. If for some reason you're not able to make it, please let us know in advance. Regular meeting submittal deadline is April 13th. B, correspondence. I refer you to any in the packet. Planner, do you have anything?
I will just speak on behalf of Scott Hussinger, and it may be better to have this conversation at the next meeting when he's here, but he is getting several questions, and I've actually gotten a few too, regarding people proposing VRBOs and short-term rentals. Right now, the state statutes apparently do not allow the city to regulate short-term or rentals if the rentals exceed 6 days. However, he is wondering if the city or plan commission and council have any interest in regulating those rentals less than 6 days, or 6 days or less in time. Right now in your definitions, there's a that I think the city used to use. The definition for single-family dwelling is a family that occupies a residence for more than 90 days. And so they used to try to prohibit anything less than that. But right now, there's no regulation. So I don't know if anybody has any comments about it.
I'd give them feedback that I'd be interested to know what other communities are doing, especially lake communities. Just from a standpoint of understanding what exists out there and why. I think this is something that's definitely should be raised by people who have issue with it, and not us looking for something to regulate and to manage complaints and not to try to get in people's business. That's my thought on it anyway.
Have the majority of us rented via Airbnb in the past? I mean, I know I have. I'm just curious what our personal experiences are with
How long a
doing
lake
it.
did you rent them for, do you know? Do you remember how long?
I've rented from one night to probably, 10 days.
I have a friend who lives in the city, on the north side of West Shore Drive, because it gets like this. And she has a house next door to her, and she's always complaining to me about that. Because some are there for a very short period of time, some are there longer, and she said some are really good, and others not so much. So I think there should be some kind of regulation.
I remember this coming up
It's
years
been here
ago.
before.
So I think it was when Schumann was mayor, I was on Plan Commission for a year. There wasn't official VRBO, but people were marketing homes around the lake through the internet. And I don't remember where we left that, if we had any I thought we had drafted something on that.
My experience has been that it's been complaint-based by the neighbors, and if there's repeated issues, then those get basically brought to the attention of the city. Now, what our current policy of exactly how we deal with that, other than have the police involved for nuisance and things like that, my understanding of the way it works right now, it's simply complaint-based. And I will say, because I have two neighbors that regularly do this, weekend after weekend in my neighborhood, and they're very particular about who they allow to rent it, right? And I can't think of, after dozens of rentals, a single issue.
So
But
do they live in those houses, or is it
they
just?
leave for the 3
For the
days during the
weekend?
weekend, go live, sometimes they go on vacation somewhere. Sometimes they go and stay with the neighbors. Sometimes they just get a hotel in downtown Milwaukee, And then
Sure, they still make money.
Yeah, they still make money, or they paid for their vacation, right?
I know on the council, we've had in 11-ish years, we've had, I think it's come before us once. And it was people who were using their lake house like their house, and other people using their lake house like a party house.
Yeah.
And
That's what I remember.
it was a problem for their kids because, hey, we've got school tomorrow and you guys are on vacation. It's a Thursday night,
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how those were resolved, but it's been rare. But I'd be interested to know, like, if there's something that allows us to deal with the one-offs. I'd love to have some teeth to throw at someone if there's a big problem.
I agree with that.
The one I'm speaking of has an absentee owner that rents it out, short-term, long-term, and has a cleaning company come in between.
Yeah.
To me, that's more of a business.
So, and just to give you a little insight, the reason why it's coming up as a priority right now, there is an interested buyer of the entire Point Crossing development.
Which isn't even on the lake.
Which isn't on the lake. It's
Yeah, but it's
downtown.
downtown.
It's not an impactful area, but it's a huge investment that he's considering making and using the entire property for short-term rentals. So it's important to him to understand where the city's going with this because of that pretty massive investment.
I like my statement that we don't want to get into other people's business. We just want to deal with complaints, so. No, I get it. But yeah, I think I'm assuming Scott's familiar with some other, or maybe between you two, you
Yeah,
can
the two
come
of
up with-
us can
okay.
look into it.
I'd love to see what other people do.
Sounds good. All right. Seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at, oh, come on, clock. 7:56. Thank you all for coming.
I'll take care of that. It'll be done. Thanks.
Those are my kids.